I never imagined the silence of a warm home could hold so many secrets. It had been 3 years since my husband passed, and the emptiness he left behind had slowly become a quiet companion. I poured my energy into our home and into raising Mark, our only son. Now 22, Mark had just returned from university, matured, more reserved, but still the boy who used to hug me every morning before school. When he arrived, he didn't come alone. "This is Mia," he had said casually, gesturing to the poised young woman beside him. She needed a place to stay for a while. Mia was unlike anyone I'd met. Elegant, soft-spoken, with a gaze that felt as though it saw through the surface of things. She was 29, Mark explained, a friend he'd met at a summer internship. She smiled with grace and thanked me for letting her in. I told her she was welcome, meaning it completely. In the first week, she transformed from a guest to something else. She offered to help in the kitchen, quietly folded laundry that wasn't hers, and watered the garden without being asked. We found ourselves talking late into the night about books, food, the quiet ache of loss. I hadn't had conversations like that in years, not even with Mark. Oddly, she and Mark rarely spent time together. He was often holed up in his room or out with friends. At dinner, he spoke little, and though Mia always smiled kindly at him, there was a formality to it, as if they shared a past that neither wanted to revisit. One afternoon, as Mia and I sat on the porch sipping tea, a breeze tangled her hair across her face. I reached out instinctively to brush it aside, and for the briefest second, her eyes held mine. Something flickered there, a moment too long, too tender, then gone. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. What was that moment? A trick of loneliness? Or something more? The days passed, and the house felt different. Quiet, but charged. I began to notice the way Mia would linger in doorways after our conversations. How she laughed just a beat longer at my jokes. How my son's eyes would darken ever so slightly when he walked into the room and found us mid-laughter. Still, I told myself it was nothing. We were simply two women sharing space, exchanging kindness. Maybe I was just grateful for companionship, for someone who truly listened. But deep down, a whisper had begun. A warning. One I didn't want to hear. And yet, as the sun set behind our fence that evening and I watched Mia from the kitchen window, her silhouette framed by orange light, I knew something unspoken had taken root in this house. I just didn't know how far it would grow. It started with a sound. Soft, deliberate, like the creak of a floorboard made by someone trying not to be heard. I sat up in bed, blinking at the red digits on my alarm clock, 2:43 a.m. The house was supposed to be still. I listened again. Another step, then another. It wasn't the wind. It wasn't a dream. Slipping out from under the covers, I tiptoed to my door and opened it an inch. The hallway was dark, the kind of dark that makes you hold your breath. I padded silently to the staircase and paused, my hand resting on the railing, heart thrumming like a warning drum. Voices drifted up, muffled, strained. I recognized Mark's tone first. Agitated. Urgent. Then Mia's soft, unsure. "We shouldn't be doing this," she said. I leaned forward, careful not to make a sound. "We've already started," Mark replied. "Don't act like you haven't wanted this too." I couldn't breathe. Steadying myself against the wall, I descended the steps inch by inch. The kitchen light was dimmed, casting long shadows across the floor. I stopped just outside the doorway, and what I saw drained the heat from my body. Mia was backed against the kitchen counter, her eyes locked onto Mark's. His hands were on her waist, pulling her closer, lips barely inches from hers. She didn't resist, but she didn't give in either. Her expression was a storm of doubt and something else I couldn't name. Then, the kiss, brief, messy, urgent. But when Mia pulled away, it wasn't shy. It was deliberate. "Mark, this is wrong," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't want to hurt her." Her. She meant me. "I thought you cared about me," Mark said, frustration seeping into every word. "I do," Mia answered. "But not like that, not anymore." I staggered back into the shadows, one hand over my mouth, the other gripping the wall as if it could hold me together. My son, the woman I had welcomed into my home, into my life. Suddenly, the late-night conversations, the long glances, the invisible tension, it all sharpened into something undeniable. But it wasn't jealousy that consumed me. It was confusion. Why did her words, "I don't want to hurt her," sound like she meant more than just guilt? What exactly had happened between us that made betrayal feel like a two-sided wound? I crept back upstairs, my legs numb, my mind spiraling. In that moment, I wasn't just betrayed as a mother. I was betrayed as a woman. By two people I trusted. Two people I thought I understood. But clearly, I had misunderstood everything. Lying in bed again, I stared at the ceiling in silence. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a stranger. And something told me this was only the beginning. Morning came draped in silence. The kind that didn't just fill a room, it pressed against it. Mark avoided eye contact at breakfast, stirring his coffee like it held answers. Mia was quieter than usual, her face pale, movements careful, almost rehearsed. I said nothing. Not yet. But my mind raced with every glance, every memory of the night before. I had spent hours rehearsing what I'd say, but now the words felt too brittle, too loud for the quiet between us. Later that afternoon, I found Mia alone in the garden, kneeling beside the rosebush she had helped me plant weeks earlier. She looked peaceful, almost fragile, as if one wrong word would shatter her. I stepped outside, the screen door creaking behind me. "Mia," I said gently. She turned, startled, her hands brushing dirt off her skirt. "Can we talk?" She nodded, eyes guarded. We sat on the bench beneath the mulberry tree, the air thick with humidity and expectation.
"I didn't waste time."
"I saw you and Mark last night." Her breath hitched. A flicker of panic passed over her face, then settled into quiet defeat. "I figured you might have." "Why?" My voice was barely a whisper. "Why would you let it go that far?" She looked down, fingers twisting in her lap. "Because I didn't know how to stop it without hurting both of you." "You should have told me." She nodded slowly. "I know." I waited, needing more. Needing clarity. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said. "Mark, he misread things. I didn't mean to lead him on. I cared about him, sure, but not in the way he wanted. And when he kissed me," her voice cracked, "I didn't feel anything. Not for him." I swallowed hard. "Then who did you feel something for?" Mia hesitated, then looked at me, really looked at me. "You." The word landed between us like thunder. I blinked, unsure if I heard her right. She continued, softly, but without apology. I tried to suppress it. I didn't know what it meant at first. But I felt more warmth from you in a week than I felt from anyone in years. You made me feel safe, seen. I was stunned into silence. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even afraid. I was undone. Because part of me, some buried, neglected part, had felt it too. But I had ignored it, refused to name it. Then Mark's voice cut through the stillness. "How long?" We both turned. He stood at the edge of the porch, face pale with betrayal. "Mark, please," I started, rising. He stepped back. "Don't. Just don't." His voice broke as he turned and walked into the house. I watched him go, heart torn in too many directions to count. And I knew this wasn't just a moment we'd move past. This was a fracture, a fault line. And something in me feared it was already too late to fix it. The house felt heavier after Mark left. His absence echoed in every room, in the empty chair at breakfast, the silence after sundown, the unused shampoo bottle still in the bathroom. A week had passed, but the tension hadn't left. It had only shifted, turning inward. Mia was gone too. She left quietly the morning after the confrontation, without saying goodbye. Just a note folded neatly on the kitchen table. I sat down to read it, hands trembling. I never meant to break anything. I never expected to feel so much, so fast. I should have left earlier, but I didn't know how. You were the first person who made me feel like I belonged. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you, and to Mark. Please take care of yourself. Always, Mia. I read it twice, then a third time. Each word felt like both a wound and a bandage. There was no denying it anymore. What I felt for her had been real. It hadn't been lust or fantasy. It had been a connection forged in vulnerability. Two women, lonely in different ways, who had found something warm and rare in each other. But the context, the betrayal, it had poisoned any chance of something honest. And yet I didn't hate her. I couldn't. I spent the next few days cleaning out the guest room. Her scarf still hung behind the door. I folded it and placed it in a box, along with the paperback novel she never finished and a half-used bottle of jasmine perfume. All reminders of a bond that had shimmered briefly before collapsing under its own weight. I knew I had to reach out to Mark. Not to explain. Not to justify.
Just to speak.
I sent him a message, short, honest. I never meant for things to unfold the way they did. I should have seen how confused you were, how much pain you were in. I failed to protect you from a mess I didn't see coming.
I'm sorry.
If and when you're ready, I'll be here. He didn't reply. Not that day. Not the next. But a week later, a single word appeared on my phone. Okay. No punctuation. No closure. But something. A beginning. I stood by the window that evening, watching the sky bruise purple as night fell. I wasn't proud of everything that had happened. But I wasn't ashamed of feeling again either. Grief had hardened me for too long. And even though the cost had been high, I had touched something real.